having the ability to separate your anxieties from your intuition is what will lead you towards having a more clear discernment. When you like truly love, you love in darkness and you love in light. And if I'm only choosing to love myself in light, then I am punishing myself for my darkness.
I know, it feels like an upgrade from the last one.
Yeah.
And like even the lighting, the mics.
Yes.
That's why I was like, we should do it again.
Hell yeah. I'm glad we did. Thanks for hitting me up. I appreciate it.
Thanks for saying yes. I didn't know. I was like, I'm just gonna, if you,
I love it.
like, if you say no, like, let's still make plans and catch up and like do something.
I know. I miss you guys. I don't know
Yeah.
what the hell I've been up to. I feel like I have not been around. Like, I've just been at the house.
Yeah.
I haven't really been like hanging out too much.
Okay.
I've just been like in my own little world.
Tell me everything that's been going on. I like went on your Instagram. I was like, I've been like loving and supporting everything you've been doing, but it
good.
seems
Thank
like it's been getting like bigger and bigger.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, I feel like it has been too. It's been really great. I finally got a manager too.
Okay.
So, but I got her after all of this stuff was happening.
After the strike
Yeah.
stuff?
No. After
Oh.
like I was starting to book.
Okay.
So like what was that? It was this time last year. I feel like it's when like the momentum started. I booked a Christmas movie, and then I booked a Sundance film, and then I booked a Tubi film, and then I booked a short film, and then I booked a lead in a feature. It was just
Insane.
like, and then the strike happened.
Yeah. No, I wanted to ask you. I was like, what do you think? Because I feel like last time we spoke,
Yeah, I
was
wasn't
more
doing
like-
shit last time
it
we
was more
spoke.
like putting in the work. Like
Yeah,
I felt like
yeah.
it was like we were talking a lot about like behind the scenes, putting in the
It
work.
actually showed up, you know?
And then
That's
like
funny.
it seems like it's like now it's
When
like
did
one
we
after
do
the
that?
other.
When did we do that last
It must have been
podcast?
like at least a year.
It had to have been.
Yeah. At least, I would say.
That's so funny. I guess, yeah, it does pay off. I guess I got to get back into that routine of
Yeah.
whatever I was doing last time I saw you because
Yeah.
it worked.
I know. I was gonna say, I was like, is it like, do you think it's just like compound of like time and effort, or like did you switch up any of your like strategies or approach?
It's an amalgamation of like timing because like, if you do this long enough, something's bound to happen. But I really think it is like the strategy that I switched up was like doing my monologues all the time. And like, oh wait, am I supposed to have this in here?
It doesn't matter.
Doing my monologues all the time and reading plays every week and watching movies. Like I was just in it. I was already in the energy of creativity. So it was just, it met me where I was. I was like, I was already ready.
I like that.
You know?
Met me where I was. That's a thing that I've been like dealing with lately, like distractions.
The distractions are real, girl.
When I'm prepping for these interviews, I'm like, how are like other people in the podcast space going about interviews? Like what kind of questions do they ask, whatever it is. And I watched one with Jason Derulo, and he was saying that like he goes into like this phase where like if he makes a goal, like that's all he's doing. He's like, I have a very strict routine. I wake up, I go to bed,
Yeah.
I eat at this time, I go to the gym at this time. Like every day is the same.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that's when the most like he gets obviously
results.
accomplishes the most.
Yeah.
But like
I-
full blown like
full-
very strict routine, which I almost have never done. So I'm
I-
almost curious about the potential.
No, I agree with that in a sense, but I also take into consideration of just being a woman too. I always like to look at it as like the masculine, feminine energy, the sun versus moon energy. You know, the sun rises every day, it's bright, it's full, and it does that consistently every day. The moon is in phases, and it's okay because I feel like, I don't know if it's like the American capitalism thing where you gotta like get this done every day, consistent, and you kind of like drain yourself. I feel like as a woman, because like we deal with a multitude of different things, whether it be like our mood, our hormones, whatever going on with us, and I think we have to respect that. But also having that routine that you can fall back on, which I think was super helpful for me, because even now thinking about it, like last summer, before all this stuff started happening, I had a very like, I made like a schedule like I would be in school, and like I broke out like, okay, on these days I'm gonna go to the gym at this time, and on Monday, Wednesday, Friday I will read this book, or I'll do master class, and I kind of broke my day out as if I were still in school. And then when there were times where like I didn't feel well, or like I was just tired, I would hop back in, whether it be 2 or 3 days later, and I already knew what the schedule was going to be because I had it written out. But I think that consistency, and like, because you're not always going to have the motivation, but if you have that discipline to stick to it, while also respecting your body and what you're feeling, and having the discernment of understanding, is this me being lazy, or is this me experiencing like just being a human, and like really being kind to myself and honest with myself in that. But I do think routines are very necessary. Like having a morning routine, I'll do like my Duolingo, I'll do my stretches, I'll do my meditation. I'm trying to get my journaling back in there. I'll go for a walk, like a 2 mile walk, and then I'll start my day, right? Like
Okay.
I want to get those things in. When I don't do that, I feel so icky, you know?
Once it becomes a routine, like I think for me, like meditation, it's like on and off. I try to do it as soon as I wake up. I still haven't like stayed super consistent.
Same.
But like if I'm gonna have first thing guaranteed, I'm gonna try a little meditation. If I could get into it, I could get into it. If not, I get up, hydrate, I have my coffee,
Smart.
and then journal. And like the goal is like free flow, 3 pages,
Good.
whatever
Artist
it
way.
is. Yes. Yeah. Not many people know that, but I swear, like, if you're like
I
with the
love that
intention
book.
of like, I'm gonna like release whatever's in my system
Heck yeah.
for 3 pages,
Yeah.
like it really does help.
I think that works a lot.
Yeah. And like now if I get a phone call or a text and it's like within that frame of me doing these things, I take it as like a disrespect, even though
Yeah.
they don't know. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is sacred time.
it's
Like, do you
also-
not care? But
It's also like for you too, it's like let me create that boundary for myself and like not answer the phone, not
Right.
scroll through social media,
Right.
because this is my time.
right.
And
Which is a muscle in itself. Yeah.
honey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's good to have those routines, and I have so much respect that you're able to stick to the journaling, because that's so difficult for me.
The journaling is like, I need it. That's like the one thing. Even like
And you
getting
just feel better after you do it.
Yeah.
Like something like that resistance is so funny though, because it's like, you know, something's good for you, but you're still
like the
fighting
gym.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, get over yourself. Just do the journal.
Do you think it's like the habit of like how to go about journaling that kind of stops you? Like,
know.
what am I gonna write?
No, I think that's a good question. What is my resistance around it? Because when I was doing the artist way, I like had a reason. Like I was committed to that program of the book, and the first time I did it, I continued journaling for about 3 months after, and then if it was like, I don't know, I just kind of like, it's so weird. Like you can create the habit, and they say if you do something for like what
21 days. I
yeah,
think?
that's supposed to be a habit. That is not the case for me, because I will
Okay.
do something for like 140 days, and I'll just be like, okay, that's enough of that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so I don't know. I think I'm getting back into it now and creating different ways for it to work for me, instead of me like kind of fighting it. So like I used to have like the journal where I would write and it felt good to put pen to paper. But sometimes if I would like fall asleep on the couch and then I don't have the journal, then I'm like, well, like I'll do it another time. Then I don't do it, or I get out of that routine. And it's like, now it's like, well, journal on your phone then, or like send yourself a voice memo.
I normally approach it of like just spilling out whatever I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But what I've been trying to do lately, just a couple of times I've implemented, I was like, oh, this actually feels really good, is reflecting on the day before and like listing out every single detail. Like it'll be like something as simple as like I was driving and like I ended up seeing the sunset like on my way home, and there was like pink in the sky, and then my favorite song came on, and then somebody I haven't heard from in a long time texted me, like
I love that.
all these little moments, and I was like, it really like raises your
Grounds you too, and it brings you into more gratitude.
yeah,
Just
it's really helping with my gratitude. So it was like a different approach to journaling. Normally, I just like spill out what's currently happening. And generally, when I do that, it's like I'm trying to work through problems.
Yeah.
But if I just reflect back on like all the details that went well, I'm just in a really great
love
like
that.
energetic space.
I think
So
that's super
it's a
important.
cool.
I try to start my mornings off like that too. Like I have this app called Habit Tracker. I love that app, and you just like check things off. But like in the morning, like one of the things I have like to check off is like prayer, gratitude. And so like before I get out of bed, I want to list 10 things that I'm grateful for, even if it's just like my breath, the fact that I woke up in a bed, that like, you know, just saying 10 things I'm grateful for. And when I was in my routine of journaling, when I started getting out of that routine of doing it in the morning, I started doing it at night and during like, okay, like how did I show up for myself today? what do I want to improve upon in tomorrow, and like what was I grateful for. And I had like those like 3 questions that I would answer every night. And then you would start, you start going out and having fun, and you don't
Then
do
you
it
wake up
every
some more
night.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
miss it.
yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, just those little moments like definitely
Yeah.
help. Yeah, I had a friend from Toronto just visit LA, and she's been wanting to pursue acting for like the longest time. And it's like the industry has changed. Like obviously everything's gone like digital, but she was even asking me like, do you think like I need to move at this point in time, like need to move to LA to pursue acting? Like, would you say to somebody who's like still dabbling on that like front lines of entering this industry?
That's an interesting question, especially because I feel like Toronto is such a great city.
True. Yeah.
It really depends on like what the result of the strike is too, right? Like before we were self-taping, so you could literally be anywhere. You just had to like get here, right? But if you're taking class, if you have the opportunity to be taking classes, if you have the opportunity to like be on sets, no matter where you are, that's your first step in. And I would say do as much as you can where you are, so that when you're ready or the opportunity presents itself for you to come to a major market, then do it. And then just move on faith. Like if you're in that space where you're feeling like, nah, this is really what I want to do and this is where I need to be, then you just need to trust your gut. I think it's just going to be different for each person.
That's good advice, actually.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, because like Toronto specifically actually is a good market, so it's like
Heck yeah.
get the work in that you can there, but if you feel very compelled to come here, maybe there's a reason.
Move on that. Yeah,
So
trust
see.
your gut.
Yeah, always. What about somebody who actually like lives here and is thinking of pursuing it? Like I know somebody else that just recently is like getting their headshots and stuff, and I was like, it was almost like triggering for me. 'Cause I was like, oh, because I remember that like era of my life, so much like unknown, and it was just kind of this like blurry like uphill battle.
What is going on?
I was like, oh God, like it's exciting at the same time, but I also like wasn't able to give any advice because I do think when I was like first entering, I mean, no, like 7 years ago, things have changed. So yeah, I was curious what you would say to somebody, like, let's say even they're living here and they're like at a point where they're like taking their headshots and they're just getting started. Is there like refreshed advice you'd have for somebody like
Get in class.
Yeah.
Get in class and work with the people that you meet in class. Be collaborative, do short films, even put together stuff for YouTube just so you can get in the motion of acting, audition for theatrical productions. Like just jump. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
And everything else will work out, but just stay in class. Like stay just sharpening that tool.
It's such a balance of like action and perspective.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, well, you've been locked into what you want to do for so long. That's like a battle too, is like,
it's interesting too, because like, yes, however, I've known how much I love acting since I was 5 years old, but I didn't decide to like truly pursue this until a few years ago. And even in deciding to pursue this, it's like, hey, I want this to be my career. There was always kind of like this like underlaying like fear of like, well, if it doesn't work out, like I can do this. So it's like you're kind of like teetering. It's like when you just like, even though it's something you enjoy, even though it's something you like want to do, like put both feet in. And I felt like, and you saw the result of me putting both feet in, what happened from that. It was project after project after project. It wasn't just deciding like, hey, I want to be a professional actor. That's 2018. Okay, so I did a couple films, I did a couple things, and then it's a pandemic. Do I still want to do this? Well, I'd still love to do it. It's like, no, decide to do this, show up every day, and watch how things unfold.
even the decision-making process is its own thing. Like, do you feel like you're good at making firm decisions?
No.
Okay, me either.
I'm a Libra rising and a Libra moon.
Yeah.
I am indecisive.
Me too.
So I think that's the importance of journaling and of meditation, because sometimes you can just decide, but you don't always have consistent actions and showing up in what the decision was that you made, because it's scary. It can be scary when things aren't working out the way that you want them to. So it's easier to be like, I'll find something else that works better for me. And it's like, no, this is what you said you wanted. How are you showing up daily? How are you showing up in that? It's the everyday decision that can be difficult. Deciding things can become easier once you remove the fear. And I think sometimes I have a difficult time being so certain about a decision I'm making because there's an aspect of what if this doesn't work out? Or what if it does? What do I do?
The unknown.
The unknown. Yeah.
Also curious about your recent experiences with auditions. So I was talking about it recently too. I was like, that's like majority of the reason why I stepped away. I was like, I just can't live through this. Like
I love auditions.
You love auditions? That's how you really know that you love the craft. Because I actually haven't even heard people that are like in it and say they love it say that. Wow.
I know. I really love it.
Wow.
It's funny. I was talking to my friend earlier.
That's a good meter.
Yeah. Because it's like an opportunity, like to play, you know. And my girlfriend, she was helping me with an audition. She was telling me, she was like, I had somewhere to go, and you were like, you just kept wanting to do it because it was fun. Like we had already gotten a taste.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's do it like this. Like let's like do that. Like they're so fun to me.
Oh my gosh.
Like it's so silly. Like that's my work, but I love it.
Yeah.
I enjoy, like sometimes it can be stressful like to find a reader or whatever, but when you find like those people you can like rely on, the whole process is so fun to me. Like the memorization of it, like having to like memorize it or like just to get the character down, like that, like just like touch into these random little worlds. It's so fun, and you get to choose. Like
that's incredible.
You can do whatever you want. I love it. I like self-taping. I love self-taping. Sometimes like I haven't been in this mode of how I feel about like my profession when we were doing in-person auditions.
Okay.
In person, I would feel nervous and like it's like, damn, I gotta drive all the way over there and like
see everybody else.
And then did you get your headshot right? And you did this. Did I remember that? And then it's just like those used to be overwhelming to me. But I also was like, that was like 2019 when I was like 2018, 2019 when I was just getting started, and I was like, yeah, it was just a lot for me. Maybe I'll feel different about it now that I'm like in my groove and I feel confident and good about it. But yeah, auditions fun.
I was not expecting that answer.
Really?
Because like I said, like even people I know that say they love acting and when they're in the industry, like auditioning is always like the thing that kind of like wore on them.
Yeah.
But maybe also what's your perspective on the process of, I guess you're just having a great time.
Yeah, I think when I'm like, I need to get this role, or like, I just kind of like give it up to God, you know, like, and it is what it is. Like I said, it's all about your perspective with stuff. So if you choose to be like, man, I got this audition to do, that's a choice. And it's also, oh, I have an audition to do. That's another choice, you know, and then being detached from the outcome of it. There's like one thing, like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not booking anything. That's because the role that's for me is on its way. God, universe is showing me like, how bad do you want it? Like, I'm going to give you all these auditions. Are you going to give your all? Or are you going to kind of like do a half-assed job? Or like, what are you bringing to it? Because I want to keep that same energy for when I'm on set too. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be excited. But yeah, auditioning, it can be a process and you can find yourself beating yourself up over it, or you can just like, F it. Like, let's just have some fun.
I think the law of detachment is something I've been hearing about lately. Have you been looking into that? Or is like detachment just like something that you naturally would? No. Okay. Because I know for me, like the more I want something, the more I try to control it and the more I push it away.
Which is hilarious, right? Life is such a funny little game. Yeah. It's interesting. I feel that I'm working more on that in my personal life of learning to let go of control, where in business, acting, whatever it may be, it's not that I don't care. I'm just like, it's going to work out. It's almost like I just have such confidence and such a knowing in that. That I'm trying my best to learn how to have that level of detachment in my personal life, you know?
Yeah, I struggle with it in all areas.
Yeah, no, I think that's like something that we as like independent women, we've had to find ourselves in these like survival state type of thing, and we have to provide for ourselves and we have to be controlling. And I'm doing my best right now to actively lean into a more healed feminine energy.
I just took a deep breath when you said that.
Oh,
actually.
good.
It's a reminder. You have to constantly remind yourself that it's okay.
It's okay. And it's also helpful when you have community of people that are like, you don't have to. Like, it's okay. People that are around you that can help, because you're already doing so much work on your own of trying to learn detachment and trying to like relax into this different version of you. It's helpful to have, whether it be, it's helpful to have women around you, and it's helpful to have just people around you that are like, I got this, let me help you with this. And you have to be in a place to receive and receive whatever the universe is giving to you, and just being just in a flow state, and which is really hard.
It's so hard. Like we said, like the more you want it, the
The more you
more.
want to hold on to it, which is
Yeah, and also I get very impatient. Like if I really want
me
something, I
too.
want it now.
What's your sign again?
Aries.
Oh yeah, that's why.
Is that your
yeah,
Aries?
I'm an Aries
Okay,
too.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. The
Very
impatient thing,
impatient. Yeah.
I think, is like an Aries
Yes,
issue.
It is. It is
Yeah.
an Aries issue for sure. And it's like you have, because I feel like sometimes the way we perceive time is just like different.
My perspective on time, I know for a fact, is distorted.
Me too, girl. Because I'd be like, I completely agree with you, and I'm just trying to breathe. And that's like something I'm trying to always remind myself before responding. I'm not perfect at it. Before responding, take a breath. Before making a decision, take a breath. Because we're like this, moving all the time,
Yeah.
and we don't see time the same way, it's important to just, which is funny because we feel like we're moving slow, and everyone thinks it's moving normal,
Right.
which is weird to me.
100%. And you know, when you're trying to like just almost as like a little like exercise or a way to like gauge when it could be time to get back into action. Like I know for me, when you're saying like I'm gonna try not to react. Like you can feel the emotions and the heat like rise up in your body when you want to react to something.
Yeah.
And it's like a wave, and it's like, okay, before you respond or you say anything or you take action based on this like really charged emotion, let the wave pass through you. Sometimes it could take 60 seconds, sometimes it could take 60 minutes.
Hello.
It depends how triggering that thing is to you, or like how, even honestly, how bad you want the result that you seek out of it. Like allow it to completely flush over you and wait till you're like centered again, and you'll know it. Like you'll feel calm.
Yeah.
And then decide what you want to do.
Wow, that was a message I needed to hear, because it's so true. And sometimes our perception of time is such a funny thing that 60 minutes can feel like 60 years sometimes. And so just being able to constantly in the moment, which is very difficult, in the moment reminding feelings are fleeting. Feelings are fleeting, and everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have your little outburst and then you say it to yourself afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You're going to get to a point where it's in the moment. And that's what I'm working on personally. But in acting, like I'm excited for the point where I have that same level of tranquility throughout all areas of my life.
Yeah.
I'm excited for
That's
that.
another thing I've been thinking about too, like all areas of your life. I was having a conversation with my dad, and he was being open about the fact that he spent the majority of his life really focused on like monetary, because he didn't have it, and really like amplified the necessity of it, and it took over so many other areas of his life. And now that he's getting older and looking back and be like, oh, I missed time here, I missed the opportunity to build this relationship, I missed that. And so like a message that he's been kind of like dropping lately, I don't even know if he's doing it intentionally, I think he's just reflecting and I'm hearing his lessons, is how important balance is. Are there certain things that you're coming to realize like kind of need to be somewhat balanced in your life for you to feel like fulfilled and good even when you are on go mode?
Yeah. That self-care and pouring into myself, I think helps. Scheduling to go get my nails done or go get a massage or just sit at the beach and look at the waves, doing an artist date. That helps keeps me.
The artist dates.
And they're great.
Yeah.
They help keep me balanced, and that's what I need to continue to lean into, because sometimes you can get in go mode. Sometimes you can get in give mode, or like trying to fix everything or trying to do everything for everyone else. And that balance of just coming back to self, which you can get a little distracted from sometimes. And I think that taking care of yourself, because like you can't pour from an empty cup, as they say, that's what helps keep balance for me. And even in that, sometimes it's so funny when you have resistance to things that you know are going to be good for you. And it's like, oh, well, let me just go run this errand for this person and I'll go do my nails another time. Or, oh, you know what, I'll come help you with that. And I was going to take a nap, but I can do that for myself another time. It's like, no, sometimes you got to like have Love is boundaries. You have to stick to those. If you know you carved out this time for yourself in order to maintain your sanity, you got to stick to it. Out of just love for yourself.
Yeah, like just because it doesn't feel as urgent, or when you talk about, we're talking about those emotions and that charged emotion, when it comes to like taking care of yourself and you're used to being the one that's always taking care of yourself, you're like, I can handle putting myself on the back burner,
Right.
but who knows if these opportunities are going to come up again and things like that. So everything else feels very urgent except for yourself.
Yeah, and it
But it needs
builds
to
on
be,
you.
yeah.
It builds on you. When you keep putting yourself on the back burner, it might not feel like a big deal today or tomorrow or the next day, but in 5 months, you're going to be burnt out. And that's not a good place
Yeah.
to be.
And speaking about energy too, like you're mentioning like the feminine energy, and then I guess the masculine energy is very like go mode,
Yeah,
you know?
initiate, get it done, like consistency.
Yeah. Have you ever got caught up in times of your life where like you were attaching certain like accomplishments or milestones to who you were and your own worth?
Yeah.
Okay, because I've gone through different phases where it's like you're pursuing something so much that you've identified with it, and then, you know, let's say you do get it on the positive side, you
Yeah.
do get it, you've attached your worth to that thing, and all of a sudden you're flying high, but there will be a time
Where it
where you
doesn't
come
work
back
out that
down
way.
again, and then what happens to your self-worth?
And that's why knowing yourself, loving yourself, and taking that time, whether you have $100,000 in the bank or you got $100 in the bank, no matter if you're on TV or if you are singing on the street corner, you have to love yourself unconditionally. I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but I know the love I have for myself is the only unconditional love that I truly can experience, because no matter what, I know I'm there for myself. When you really relax into the love for yourself, your value on things outside of you are not a reflection of your value inside. Does that make sense?
100%. Where do you feel like you're kind of like new to practicing and cultivating self-love, or has it been something you've been doing for a while?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel that I've always felt like I had a good understanding of who I was until I was faced with an event where I was like, do I know myself? And that gave me the opportunity to really fall in love with myself in like my ugliest
Okay,
moment.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you like tell me a little bit more?
Yeah,
Because you don't normally hear about self-love. I think first of all, a lot of times people get confused self-care for self-love.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying, getting my nails done, they think that's self-love, but
Yeah.
not necessarily. And I think a lot of times we make the mistake of self-love being when you're amplifying your positive qualities. But so I really like
I
the
think
approach
that's-
that you're speaking of.
I think it's a little dangerous to always focus on things being positive all the time, because when you like truly love, you love in darkness and you love in light. And if I'm only choosing to love myself in light, then I am punishing myself for my darkness. But my darkness is inevitable. Our duality is inevitable as human beings of this nature of this world that we live in. You're not going to be good all the time. You're not going to be bad all the time. There's going to be bad aspects and good aspects. And you have to learn to love yourself in both of those arenas. And when you can have the discernment and the honesty with yourself of saying, I don't like this. I love myself. I'm not condemning myself. I'm human, but there's an opportunity for me to be better here. And holding yourself accountable in that and loving yourself through that, that's where I felt like my true journey with self-love began. You know, where it's the acceptance of who I am in my entirety.
Would you attach that or like that journey to like the concept of shadow self? Because that's something
For sure.
Okay, because I don't. Yeah, explain what your shadow self is if you know
Yeah,
of it. Because
so
I feel like it's really interesting, but I don't know enough about it.
My understanding of it is like the parts that you hide from the world and the ones that you hide from yourself, the ugly parts of yourself. Like,
And even like, how do we define ugly? Like, give me an example
well,
of like.
I say like low vibrational things like jealousy
Okay.
or resentment or guilt or shame. The things that you're like, yeah, I'm kind of ashamed of these things about me, or I did that thing and it haunts me. It's not just like identifying like, yeah, I did this shitty thing, or like I experienced this really traumatic experience. And it's like, well, it is what it is. Like, no, that's not it. It's like really like sitting in the mirror and like looking at yourself. Actually, like mirror work. I love mirror work. Like literally sitting in the mirror and like sitting with yourself. Like sit with the things that you've done, sit with the things that you've experienced, and then let it go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just facing it.
Facing it. Yeah.
I was thinking about whenever I've gone through something like traumatic, like really hurt me, whatever it was like it happened. So obviously the initial like receiving of whatever it is hurts.
Yeah.
And then my next like plan of action was to like remove myself as much as I can. In my mind, like I've been hurt. Like I've received whatever this was supposed to give me is enough. Like that was a lot. That was hurtful. And now it's time for me to move on as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And I realized like I never fully processed. So I never get over a lot of things.
And so you might carry that into the next
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Like I never fully process. And I honestly didn't until very recently realize that like that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Because probably the attachment to being positive was such like
It's kind of, it sounds like kind of like an avoidant attachment. Have you ever read that book, Attachment?
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, all right, like I'm moving on, I can find something like better that suits me. And it's like there's a responsibility that we all hold, even in like, I don't know the traumatic experience that you're necessarily talking about, but in order, like when in interactions, it takes two to tango, right? So like this thing or person could have traumatized you, but there's something that you're participating in as well. So you can ask yourself, how could I have better shown up for myself in this? And it can't just be like, I shouldn't have been there in the first place. It's like, okay, but like I was there. Why was I there? Why did I choose to go through this experience? How could I have handled this in a more loving way for myself? There's a process of asking yourself these questions to shift your perspective slightly. And there might be the fact that you learn it's like, nah, like there ain't nothing to learn from this. Like that's fine too. Like if that's what your journey is, that's fine too. But it's just taking more responsibility for our lives, because this is your life. This is my life. It's what I'm choosing to experience in this life. So it's like, how am I showing up in this? And like, what can I do better to nurture myself and love myself through this experience, this life that I'm experiencing.
I love that you take that opportunity to like deepen your relationship to yourself and even your self-love, because I think in those moments where I will take time, it's more so of the approach like, okay, well, I should take accountability. What could I have done differently? And it becomes a self-criticizing thing.
And you have to be careful with that.
Yeah, like that was my way of working on it. What can I change about myself to avoid this type of scenario again?
Because I've recognized it too. I guess it's just all my fault. Like that is kind of a victimizing mentality as well. Like you don't want to be a victim in your own story. You want to be the hero in your story.
And it wasn't that I didn't want to take responsibility, but I think I was taking all the weight every single time.
But then, like I said, like for me, in my perspective of that, that's where it can kind of like lean into like a victim mentality, because you're taking on everything, and if everything's on top of you, you're not doing good, you know. So then you are struggling. So it's just like I said, it always takes two to tango. If there's someone else in this experience that you're having, it can't all be you. Right? There has to be something that they're participating in. That's not your business though. What they've experienced and what they're going through, that's not for you and your journey, unless they're included in that. It's just the aspect or the perspective of, who do I want to be? How do I want to show up for myself? How can I improve? And this book, Becoming Supernatural, that I really love, they always talk about your future present self. And if you have such a specific idea and intention of who you want to be, you can ask yourself those questions without putting everything on you. I did this. Is this a reflection of that woman that I want to be? No. Okay. So how can I do this better to be a mirror reflection of that woman? Okay, cool. And then it allows you to have discernment, but it doesn't bury you.
Can you expand on what discernment means?
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
feel like it's a word I've been hearing more and more, and it's a word I'm trying to incorporate and
Yeah.
like an action I'm trying to incorporate, but I almost don't think that I know the real definition and when and how to incorporate it.
Yeah, for me, discernment is when you're faced with a decision, what is the best way to go? Using your intuition, using your intelligence, but having the ability to separate your anxieties from your intuition is what will lead you towards having a more clear discernment of like the right or wrong, like the good angel versus the bad angel or the devil on your shoulder. It's like, which voice are you choosing to listen to? That clarity gives you the discernment to lean into something that is for you. You have to identify your anxieties, identify your fears. And for me, I'm a list person. I need to write it out to see things sometimes. To say, like, okay, am I making this decision from ego? Am I making this decision from anxiety? Or am I relaxing into my intuition? Is that what I'm listening to?
Yeah, and I think if you are a person who's like self-critical, you can have a hard time differentiating between anxiety and intuition, because if you're feeling like a rise of unease, then that could either be your past trauma, anxiety, and let's say you don't want to be that person anymore. So you're like trying to silence it.
Yeah.
But there's a confusion of like, is this just my intuition alarming me? Or is this like bad habit?
It's that too, where it's like, is it the bad habits? Is it my intuition alarming me? And then there's the opportunity for growth, which I feel there is a certain level of discomfort when growth is an opportunity for you. So sometimes, like, whatever your mode of like how you discern things, you have to meditate, you have to write it down, you have to go for a walk so you can identify, is this an opportunity for growth? Is this me about to repeat a bad habit? Is this my intuition telling me to do it or not to do it? And that process is something that you have to find for yourself. But that's what the discernment is, the ability to.
And generally, the path to that answer would probably be silence, stillness, as much as possible.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Stillness is hard.
Yeah. Stillness and silence, I think, would be like it's not easy, but the route to deciding
I agree.
which one of those answers it is for you.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree completely with that.
Also, another topic I wanted to talk about, because it also relates to acting, because in auditions, like I was saying, I always attached audition to a lot of rejection. That's
Really?
why
so
I did.
interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
People say that a lot, and I don't feel that.
I feel like it's almost like a synonym. Like people would think of
Wow.
auditioning and they just think rejection. Because it just as a numbers game, it's bound to happen more. They're going to say no more than they're going to say yes. Just in
but
terms
no one's
of like
ever really
stats.
saying no, though. That's
Right.
For me, I think I'm delusional because like I don't like, if I don't get a role, I don't even think about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if somebody was hitting me up every time I didn't get a role and be like, nah, like I would be in shambles.
Yeah.
Most likely. But my perception of that, and that's like what I've been moving with, is like, oh, it just wasn't for me. It was for that person. You know, go about my day.
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like a rejection. It just feels like an opportunity to play. And then when I don't get a role, it never feels like a no to me.
Because you're having so much fun with it.
Because I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, there are roles where I'm like, oh, I knew that was for me. Are you kidding me? And I have to be like, no, it wasn't. If it was for you, you would have booked it. So let it go.
Do you feel like you're like able to apply that perspective in like everything in life when it comes to like feeling almost, that could be a woman thing too.
Yeah.
The feeling of not feeling chosen.
Yeah, that's difficult. I think when someone is not for you, if you've tried your hardest, and like when I say your hardest, I mean like really give 100%, like free of ego, free of pride, and it's still just not working, then you just have to let it go. You just have to be at peace with it. That's something that I've been learning to move through as well. It is more difficult when it's your personal life, because then it feels like something's wrong with you. When it's my professional life, I don't feel like it's anything wrong with me. I just think, oh, like maybe my hair was too curly, or maybe I didn't hit this beat like the way that this person hit the beat, and that fit the character better. And I'm just like, I'm at peace with it. But when it's like your personal life, and like if it's a friend, a romantic partner, and it's like, this is someone like I've been vulnerable with, this is someone that I've like bared my soul to, and they just don't really like want to be in my life, like that's rejection. That is hard.
Levels of rejection.
Like that's, for me, that's more difficult. And it does take a lot more work with being like, I'm covered, I'm good, and having that perspective of like the person that I'm supposed to be friends with, the person I'm supposed to be married to is out there for me. And whatever happens is what is supposed to happen for me. And I have to let go. Like, you can do your mind movie, like that book says. Like, you can do your future, present, me, but you have to be okay with the outcome of none of this happening.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with the outcome of going to auditions, being in all these movies, and be okay with, hey, maybe it doesn't work out. And you have to be okay with it does work out. But holding on to either of those ideas is like what will create such suffering for you, because you're holding on to something. It's hard, especially for people. Like when people are in your life, I imagine it's like that when you have children. It's like you just want the best for them, and this child chooses to do something. You just, and it goes back to control. Let go, which is so hard.
So hard. I wanted to ask you, and I don't know how much you've dove into the world of psychedelics or using any kind of like plant medicine for healing and personal development.
Heck yeah.
But I want to hear about what you've done and that experience, what you've learned out of it.
That's so funny. I haven't talked about this in so long.
It's a subject I've been wanting to talk to you about like for years.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And we like touch on it a little bit, but I'm like, okay, she's coming back on the podcast. I need to ask her.
It's interesting. I had this like fascination, almost obsession with ayahuasca since before I moved out here. Like my last year of undergrad, I like read The Celestine Prophecy, and
2 guests ago she read that book, and it like changed her life, like the complete course of her life.
I've been trying to get to Peru ever since I read that
She
book.
went to Peru for like 8 months after that, and it changed her life.
I'm so jealous. But reading The Celestine Prophecy, I learned somehow about ayahuasca. Then I came out here, and this woman at USC, when I got my master's there, she was doing a film about it. And I was just so fascinated by it. I don't know, there's something just is just drawing me to it. So I finally was able to go on an ayahuasca journey for 2 nights. It was beautiful.
Really?
I honestly, I don't like to speak about it too much, because I feel like if it's something that's calling you, then you should try it. Because it shows you everything.
The good, the bad. Okay.
Yeah, you have your little ego death. Little ego.
A little.
You literally like watch yourself die, and then you watch yourself be a part of everything.
And you feel connected to everything, which is the reality.
Yeah, which is, and it reminds you, you're not alone.
Right.
All of this experiences, we're all interconnected. It showed me like my fears. And it was funny because, you know, people just like throw up and stuff. When I was like, was telling myself, I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting that. I just would throw it up, and then it would just show me so much light and so much beauty. And I was just like, whoa. So it was like a really beautiful part of my journey. Because I did that, 2 years ago now, which was like, in the heap of it, 2 years ago. Jeez Louise. And it really opened my eyes to things, but it's like sticking to that, remembering what it showed you. Sometimes it's easy to get off track. I also really loved when I was living in Santa Fe, got just really weird obsession with mushrooms. Like in general, like mushroom, just any like type of mushroom, like lion's mane.
I go through like little stints where I'm really into it too, but I never like dive deep enough.
It's so fun. I read this book called How to Change Your Mind. Was so good. It was a big, thick old book. And then they made a docuseries.
I was going to say, I feel like I saw it on Netflix.
I wish I waited, because that was a thick ass book. But
the time could have been cut.
Yeah, I literally could have just watched it. But if you watch that docuseries or you read the book, it was very insightful. I also read a book called how to talk to trees or something like that.
Okay.
And I learned what I became so fascinated with by mushrooms is the way that they communicate with one another under the ground, and how they're pretty much like the brain of our planet, and how they have so many healing properties, just like the way trees communicate and stuff. And then in those books, the guy, mycologist Paul Stamets, I believe his name is.
Oh, he's like the mushroom.
The
like,
Mushroom King, yeah. And so he was even talking about like psilocybin, and how psilocybin, they talked about it in the book, and he talked about it in the documentary Fantastic Fungi, about how mushrooms, magic mushrooms, psilocybin, had the ability to help treat anxiety, depression, I think it was like bipolar, PTSD,
Yeah.
and even it was some used treatment for autism.
Okay.
But they stopped putting money into it because it was not beneficial to be quote unquote curing people of these issues or these things that they're experiencing. So, I dealt with a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, and I wanted to understand myself better on that spectrum. So I would start like microdosing, and they would say, "Don't look in the mirror. Don't look in the mirror when
I
you're doing."
heard that.
No, I looked in the
did it?
mirror. I looked in the mirror, and I loved what I saw.
Oh.
I loved.
Okay.
I loved everything that I saw when I looked in the mirror. I saw my light again when I looked in the mirror. It reminded me of who I am, and not letting everything else kind of distract me from that. But that experience was beautiful, and then I left it. I got what I needed from it. I learned from it.
Okay.
But I didn't do it for like fun or anything. Like I got my lessons from it, and if I need to go back and learn those lessons again, which I'm sure I will, I'll do it as I see needed. But it was beautiful, especially like being in nature while doing it too. Like just being around grass and trees and just seeing how beautiful this planet is, and realizing I'm okay. Yeah.
And for the mushrooms, you did microdosing. You never did like a full.
Oh no, I did a full
Dose?
dose.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, they always say like a superhero dose. I tried, but I didn't ever.
What is that?
Like, Jesus, do that like a shit ton.
Oh, okay.
I tried, but I didn't like. It didn't really do anything for me. Like, it just made me like really happy and like really like. Dee. But it wasn't like I saw like my skin melting. Like I remember I did shrooms with people one time, and the one guy was like, "I see darkness in myself. I see and he's like, but I see you and I see light." And I was like, "Oh no!" Like everyone's tripping balls right now. I gotta get out of here. I've never experienced like I've never experienced
Hallucinations, even like.
No.
Okay.
I never hallucinate. I never did any of that.
Wow.
I just
So it really was like a self-healing.
For me,
Yeah.
it was never like anything that was like trippy. I would just get like happy. I would just look at the trees and be like, wow, it's like the earth is breathing, and like it just all felt so serene.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't speak on people that have had those like crazy experiences. That's scary as hell. I would not do it again if I ever experienced that.
Right. I know. I think that's what's like scared me from it. I've heard so many like hallucination stories.
Yeah, that's not have been an experience of mine, but again, the mentality and the mindset that you have going into it affects your journey as well. If I'm in a state of receiving and surrendering, I'm being a vessel for what messages are supposed to be coming to me. So going into anything with fear, you're gonna get that result. Like we said before, like what you think becomes your reality.
Right.
And I think in that state, in that very sensitive state between, I guess, realities, you could say, you got to be very delicate with where your mind is.
And I feel like you're so closely connected to your subconscious.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah.
That you don't want. It's the same thing. Like even like watching a video before you go to sleep.
Yeah.
If you're somebody that dreams a lot, it'll probably integrate itself into your dream. If you have that perspective, even in life, like if you realize like that's how receptive we are to what we pay attention to, you'll probably go about life completely different. But in these experiences, like I think the documentary, I don't know if they touch on different like psychedelics. I think they also touch on MDMA and like something else.
I don't know. I don't know too much about like man-made psychedelics. I don't.
Yeah.
Those kind of scare me sometimes. Like the only
because
other,
you never know like who's making it. And
you
stuff
don't know
like
what's
that.
going on there.
Yeah.
But I remember like they were saying like how like acid was very like beneficial for people as well.
Yeah.
I just like that the man-made stuff kind of makes me nervous.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Who knows?
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to ask like what your experience was. I've tried MDMA.
Yeah.
And the experience was like, it's kind of the same thing.
It like heightens your senses, right?
Yeah, on a physical level,
Yeah.
but then even like on an emotional and mental level, like you grow kind of the same mentality of like we're all connected. Like
Connected.
you release all fear, all judgment, like you all you feel is love. And that's why they used to use it in therapy sessions, and it was kind of considered like a truth serum. And they would say like you could get like 5 years worth of therapy done in like one session because you're just so open and you're so
Yeah.
accepting, and all you're feeling is like love between the two of you.
And it's how do we carry that into our daily lives?
Right.
After we've had that
Integrate those
experience?
lessons. Yeah.
Integrate those lessons. Absolutely.
Yeah. Not to be like an advocate for any of it, but it's just interesting to
think-
see like what could be a tool.
I think you have to go into your toolbox and understand yourself well enough to know what it's going to work for me. And what am I looking for?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, my last question.
Aw, dang. I'm having fun.
I know. If there's one thing, and I've asked you this before, and maybe it's different now, which is always exciting because
Okay.
we evolve, but if there's one thing you could break the mold on, what would it be?
I feel like this is going to be like a pageant answer.
Okay. Whatever your instinct is, I feel like is the most authentic one.
Maybe, like, not maybe. I wish I could lead a world of complete, like, interdependence. Like, I wish I had the tools to lead that understanding so people could be less greedy and less selfish. That's why I want to break the mold on. I want to bring more love into the world, and I ask God to give me those tools so I can break the mold and spread that all over.
That's a great goal. That was like so high level of like really like an intuitive, heartfelt goal. So that was great.
Yeah, it's something that's been in my heart for years. I just want to help change the world for the better.
Well, actually, the last episode that we did, I was asking you about like your purpose. I'm gonna tie this in because I think
Yeah.
it was an important part, and we didn't touch on this episode. But I was asking about your purpose and how it connected to acting, and my perspective, and I think a little bit of the conditioning was that your purpose is like attached to a job. And through our conversation, it was like acting is not your purpose per se. Like a job isn't your purpose.
Right.
It's like who you show up as
Yes.
in that practice.
Yes.
And you just so happen to be somebody that lights up when you're acting.
Yeah.
And your light and sharing your light is your purpose. So I think
Yes.
you kind of had the same answer today, just like in a different format.
Yeah.
So it stayed
Oh,
consistent.
good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
glad my values are still in alignment.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
This was
It's so good
amazing.
to
You're always
see you.
amazing.
Oh, thank you.